Welcome back, philosophy students and curious minds. Let's jump right into today's explainer. We are taking a visceral, deeply philosophical deep dive into the dark fantasy lore of the Sapphire Forge to unpack a profoundly Nietzschean conflict. What we're really looking at here is the fundamental tension between the human drive to build meaning, which we're calling sovereignty, or the will to endure, and the absolute erasing force of cosmic nihilism, the will to end.
We have to begin our lecture in this stark, pitch-black landscape with a character called the Sapphire Jester. He is a figure who embodies pure destructive nihilism, and he's mocking Wotan, the great builder, framing Wotan's sovereign creation not as some grand triumph, but as a self-imposed fetish of form. It's such a fascinating paradox, right? In attempting to break free from old rules and old cages to forge a pure, independent self, Wotan has essentially built the strongest, most demanding cage of all.
So let's open up Chapter 1, the Mechanics of Annihilation, focusing on the Sapphire Forge's cosmic utility. Because to truly understand this philosophical conflict, we need to first look at the actual physical mechanism driving this cosmic nihilism.
Okay, let's walk through the absolutely brutal, systematic process of the Sapphire Forge's unmaking chamber. Unlike a normal machine, this thing doesn't burn physical fuel. No, it metabolizes narrative inertia, literally the kinetic energy and momentum of a human life. It starts with a Z-pinch plasma touch, which acts as an ontological catalyst. It's altering the fundamental nature of a person's being. This triggers the thermal volatilization of identity, essentially boiling away the thermodynamic noise of your memories. The subject's biological tissue, their tragic destiny, their entire complex life is treated as mere mass input and reduced to a uniform, non-reactive slurry. Ultimately, the Forge is trying to resolve the kinetic energy of lives that have burned out, replacing the messy performance of existence with the flawless perfection of a nothingness that requires nothing at all.
Which brings us right into Chapter 2, Arithmetic of the Void, and the triumph over the crushing weight of identity. We have to ask, what is the ultimate destination for those finalized, high-density silicate artifacts? Well, it's a massive, unyielding archive known as the Void Ledger.
The void ledger essentially acts as a crystalline hypostasis. What does that mean? It's a fundamental reality where the kinetic noise of a human life is completely stilled within a zero-point matrix. This monolithic register totally eschews the impermanence of ink. Instead, it relies on frozen gravitational waves to record these concluded narratives. It ensures that the ultimate mass-energy balance of every distilled soul is preserved with absolute industrial finality. It's genuinely tragic when you think about it. A rich, complex human life finds its ultimate repose not in some grand victory, but in becoming a literal line item.
And on this slide, we're presented with a really stark, terrifying contrast. On the left, you have the human experience, the crushing weight of identity, filled to the brim with the concentrated sorrow and tragedy of existence. But on the right, the Forge's output, the structural clarity of a data point. The Forge transforms a condensed autobiography into a highly polished, geometric blue gem entirely stripped of any subjective flicker. The internal consciousness voltage is fixed at absolute zero. Philosophically speaking, it represents a literal, mechanical solution to the punishment of being.
Philologically, there's actually a deep, somber poetry to all this arithmetic. The term ledger historically connects to a place of resting. When these gems are slotted into the custom-bored recesses of the ledger's cover, they create this incredible grid of silent blue stars. And that silence? It stems from the Latin word silere. It marks a permanent rest from the loud, weeping existence of broken swords and shattered vows. The cosmos is finally documented through pure data, rather than exhausting human drama.
But, as we'll see here in Chapter 3, Echoes of Chaos, focusing on the leftovers of identity, well, the Jester's arithmetic isn't perfectly clean.
You see, the human spirit is notoriously stubborn. It leaves behind a stain that simply cannot be integrated into the ledger's perfect symmetry. When a knight's vitality is metabolized into that silicate prize, a hollow vessel is left behind, and this vessel becomes the residence for a thermodynamic echo. It is a literal shadow made of chaos and ink, representing the residual vibration of an exhausted soul. This is chaos in the ancient Greek sense, a gaping maw, a void created by the process, wandering around as discarded noise that simply refuses to be neatly archived.
This beautifully illustrates how the Forge literally bifurcates existence. Look at this split.
On one side, you have the void ledger, representing geometric symmetry, pure structural data, and silent blue stars that are completely accurately accounted for. But then, wandering the unmaking chamber, you have the leftovers, beautifully quiet shadows of chaos, thermodynamic echoes, and discarded noise. This right here is the physical reality of nihilism made manifest.
Let's transition into Chapter 4, Sovereignty and the Jester, looking at the architects of the void. It's time to move from the physical mechanism of the machine to the minds behind it, exploring the dialectical confrontation between its philosophical architects.
Now we are at the absolute crux of the debate. The Jester stands as nihilism triumphant. He proudly claims his philosophy is superior simply because it demands no lie. He challenges Wotan's concept of the overman, the supreme will, as nothing more than the ultimate joke played on the self. The Jester argues that the very second Wotan affirms a new value, the moment he creates a new gravity, he is merely setting up a brand new target for inevitable, glorious smashing. For the Jester, building anything is just an open invitation for destruction.
But Wotan's response, it is an absolute masterclass in sovereign thought. Instead of denying or fighting the Jester's mockery, Wotan completely embraces it. He calls the Jester the necessary fire. Wotan understands that to truly create, to perform the sovereign deed, he actually needs the divine no. He needs the Jester to burn the bridges of the past, creating a terrifying ground zero, so that Wotan cannot retreat into old comfortable moralities.
And that directly sets up Chapter 5, the Uncanny Mirror, detailing the ultimate symbiosis of destruction and creation. Because the crucial point to take away here is that Wotan and the Jester aren't merely enemies.
They are uncanny mirrors of one another. The Sapphire Jester embodies the destruction of all values and the will to end. He is the infinite possibility that literally tears down the sky. Meanwhile, Wotan embodies the creation of new values and the will to endure. But here's the secret. The Jester's absolute destruction is the necessary catalyst for Wotan's creation. By tearing down the sky, the Jester forces Wotan to face the terrifying fact of the blank horizon, because you just cannot build a new world until the old one has been completely leveled.
They are two sides of the exact same terrible coin, flipped high above the common world. The Jester operates with complete freedom from consequence. His entire role is to go out into the market, spread his sublime sickness, and tear down the altars. He clears the stage. By doing so, he strips the seeker bare, making them raw. And only then is someone actually ready for Wotan, who bears the heavy burden of consequence, to step in and perform the apotheosis, the true sovereign deed.
You see, neither force is complete alone. Wotan is the truth that smashes the comfortable man. But a smashed world is just a tragedy without the Jester. The Jester provides the laughter that confirms the smashing was absolutely deserved. You need a heavy hammer of truth to shatter the old dead world, but it has to be accompanied by that cruel, silvery giggle that confirms the destruction was completely justified. Order and chaos, ledger and shadow, builder and destroyer. They are perfectly symbiotic and completely inseparable.
We're going to wrap up this explainer by leaving you with the Jester's final chilling promise to Wotan. Right before dissolving into a sapphire mist, the Jester warns that the next time Wotan feels too firm, too eternal, the Jester will be the very first shadow cast over his grandest spire. So what does this all mean for us? It forces us to ask, are the most eternal, unyielding structures of identity we build in our lives, our most sovereign creations, just a temporary pause? Are they merely a breath held just before the universe's next great laugh? Keep that in mind the next time you try to carve your own meaning into the void. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the Sapphire Forge. Keep questioning, and we'll see you next time.